Hello, and welcome back to our series of talks that accompany the exhibition Making a Mark, now on at the Barber Institute of Fine Arts. My name is Megan, and I am part of the University of Birmingham student team who curated this exhibition in partnership with the Royal Collection Trust. In this talk, I explore the function and operation of artist studios within the scope of our exhibition between the 16th and 18th centuries. I will be discussing the studio of Peter Paul Rubens, highlighting his drawing within the exhibition. When one imagines an artist's studio, what immediately comes to mind? You might picture an open-plan loft, a lone artist hunched over a canvas, paintbrush in hand, as they single-handedly commit to each brushstroke. Our minds tend to romanticize this idea of the lonely creative genius who simply wishes to express themselves. However, the studio spaces of the Dutch and Flemish Old Masters show us that in the 16th to 18th centuries, the most successful workshops were bustling and populous economic hives, containing a variety of artists, assistants, pupils, and visiting patrons. The master, who ran the studio, owned any work created there since they were made in his style. He would sign the work of the pupils if he judged they matched his aesthetic and upheld his brand, which enabled a streamlined factory-like production of works of art. The extraordinary Flemish artist Peter Paul Rubens led an especially successful studio. Rubens is a key draughtsman featured within Making a Mark, who operated an enormous workshop in Antwerp in the early 17th century. His studio was described by Dr. Otto Sperling, who visited in 1620, as without windows, but lighted by a large opening in the ceiling. There were gathered a good number of young painters who worked on different pieces of which Rubens had given them a chalk drawing, touched here and there with colours. The young men had to completely execute these paintings, which were then finished off with line and colour by Rubens himself. His studio was so popular that in 1611, Rubens noted he refused more than 100 applicants who applied to be an assistant. His assistants ranged from young hopeful artists to semi-independent experienced collaborators who were employed according to their specialised area, whether that be landscape, animal, or still life composition. If we examine Rubens' Silenus and Eagle and other studies featured in Making a Mark, we can see evidence of this studio practice. The satyr Silenus, who is pictured on the left, was a companion of the Roman god of wine Bacchus, who also possessed the gift of prophecy. In this image, in classic Bacchic style, he appears to have fallen into a drunken sleep. Nymphs, beautiful nature deities, playfully surround him, one of whom can be seen painting mulberries on his face. The drawing is dated 1612 to 17 and measures 281 by 508 millimeters, which is roughly the size of a piece of A3 paper. Pen and brown ink have been used with a brown wash, adding a more finished element to the figure of Silenus. The compositional ideas appear to have been added incrementally over the years, as the sketch figures linked to paintings created by Rubens in the years 1614 to 18. The figures on the top right corner of the drawing overlap each other, the original idea drawn over and disappearing in a maze of lines. It seems likely that assistants consulted this sheet to practice their own sketching, and were encouraged to develop the same methods for more finished paintings. This shows that in Rubens' studio, drawing played a crucial role in enabling artists to test out ideas over several years. This oil painting, attributed to Rubens, was likely created in 1616 to 17. It hung in Rubens' house and was discovered in Rubens' possession after his death, which certainly bestows a personal element to this piece. It measures 2,120 by 2,145 millimeters, which, to put into perspective, is roughly the dimensions of a king-size bed. The huge scale of this detailed painting highlights how there must have been a collaborative effort between Rubens and his assistants in order to complete it. What strikes you most about this scene? We can see that it features the character Silenus, who appears in an inebriated state, drunkenly staggering on his feet. Although this painting was made possible through collaborative work, Rubens' signature style still permeates his piece. This is particularly evident in the exceptional softness of its execution, seen for example in the puckering flesh of Silenus, where one of his companions grabs his thigh and arm to steady him. It is interesting that Silenus' fleshy chest and crease in the armpit area are present in our unfinished sketch by Rubens, following the tradition of depicting Silenus as a round-bellied, debauched character. In this finished painting, the face of Silenus closely resembles the one in the study. Note the positioning of his features, his broad flat nose and characteristic beard. The feathering of the cherub-like boy's hair also particularly stands out as a fascinating and consistent detail in this hectic scene. Sketches produced in the studio not only allowed for artistic practice, but also aided artists in forming characters and motifs that would be used and reused for several commissions. Rembrandt also established thriving studios, first in his native town of Leiden, and then in the bustling metropolis of Amsterdam. Here, his former students Ferdinand Bol and Samuel van Hoogstraten practiced and honed their craft, along with his colleague Jan Levens. Ferdinand Bol, for example, is regarded as part of Rembrandt's immediate circle, and they said it's early in his career his works were often mistaken for Rembrandt's. In this drawing, the figures of David and Nathan are executed in sketchy pen and ink, a technique seen in the Rembrandt drawing. The grey wash casts a strong contrast of light and dark, denoting a fall of light, and this really pulls us into the scene. The reason for this emulation of style could be the success and wealth of Rembrandt. By the 1650s, however, Rembrandt's style had dropped out of fashion. Can you recognise any other similarities between the works by Rembrandt, Bol and van Hoogstraten in the exhibition? It is undeniable that Rubens and Rembrandt hosted some of the most important and influential workshops globally during this period. Through inspiring his pupils to the mastery of drawing, Rubens paved the way for his assistants to contribute to highly complex finished works. Rubens also encouraged the practice of drawing. His overwhelming influence within the development of artistic technique and style during this period permeates several works within making a mark. Both Rubens and Rembrandt taught some of the most exceptional Dutch and Flemish draughtsmen of the period. This cemented their legacy within art history, serving as exemplary leaders of art. Thanks for listening to our talk. We hope you enjoy our exhibition. To find out more about the works and themes of Making a Mark, you can listen to our other podcasts or read our short essays here.